Hello everyone, this is Bill Acevedo. Welcome to Dell EMC Networking Tech Talk with OpenManager Network Manager, and this is for version of OMNM 6.5. And today's topic, we're going to talk about change determination and compliance policies. So if you go over to the compliance tab on the top menu here, you're going to come across this page, and basically what we have here is a layout that is focused on compliance policies and change determination. And so what you see here is this used to be our ProScan portlet, but we changed the name to be compliance policies, so it's more indicative of what it does. And this is where all your policies are stored, preceded ones, and then you can create your own. We'll get back to that. Over on the right here, what you have is what we call compliance remediation actions. Now, in reality, this is the same as the actions portlet. And the idea here is that as you create your own compliance policies, you'll also create remediation actions to go and resolve any failures in your compliance. Down below, we have compliance event history, and this is going to be a focused event history that just shows you compliance-related actions. As you can see here, I have compliance failures, and so you're just going to see things of that nature related to compliance. And so it gives you a little more focus again on specific things around your policies. And then similarly with the alarms, we have a filtered alarms portlet that's just showing the alarms related to compliance. You see several here again. And so again, just more to show the alarm levels related to those compliance type events. And down below we have compliance schedules. Now this is where you're going to schedule things like compliance related actions. And so what you see here is the default determination, change determination. This is another level of change determination. So there's two that we talked about. We talked about policies, but there's even a more fundamental level of change determination. And this is in relation to your configuration files as well. So you may want to be able to interrogate all of your config files against all of your devices on some interval that you can schedule. And what that's going to do is going to go out and back up all of your devices initially, and then periodically on whatever interval you set, and it's going to detect, it's going to actually scan each file and compare it to the prior change determination process. And if it sees a difference, it's going to flag another an alarm, and you'll see that in the alarm window or the event history, depending on what it is. And it'll say that a change was detected. And so that's your immediate clue that there was some change that indicated on some, found or indicated on some file. And so again, if you've seen the actions and the automation video, you can get any of these events, you can trigger an email through an event processing rule or automation to notify you as well if you want to be notified of those kind of things. So again, the change determination is just more, did it change or not? It doesn't give you a lot of granular information about what changed. And that's where the ProScan comes in, the compliance policies, where you can actually define what you want to scan for, specifically things that maybe are appropriate for your environment. And so we can look at things like, we've seeded some here, so I'm just going to go and show you a few. So for example, this Dell networking recommend SSH. This is basically a policy to go out and say, is SSH on the box or not? And if it's not, it will flag a compliance failure. Let's take a look at that real quickly so we can see how that's set up. Very simple. You can scan, do a new backup of the device and scan it. You can actually go and scan a current config, which is something that's in our database, or some other label that you've put on a box. And that's discussed in our configuration file management, but you can label your configurations and do it by that. You can scan the output by date of the configuration files you have in the database, or you can actually do an ACLI. It's called same as an action, where you can do something like you could do a show run, scan that, or you could do a show SNMP or something like that, and scan just a snippet of output. And so you would just basically select what action you want to run that against. For now, we're just going to leave it at device backup. And so your policy, generally you don't want to put targets in it. You want to have it available to run off the resource manager. You can right click and pick this policy to run. Or if you put explicit targets here, you could just save it and execute it, and it would run against those targets. But the criteria is what I want to show you is that if you want to do some more detailed matching on config files, here's a sample of Telnet and SSH. So we're saying match regex, and we'll look at that, and it's just showing a simple regex command, say looking and match for IP SSH server. That's going to tell us is SSH configured. And then the next one here is do not match. So this is basically saying if I find telnet, then flag an issue because we don't want telnet configured. And so that's basically telling us the policies that we're using here. And so the way these are read are, the easiest way to read this is would be able to say the policy is compliant if it does not match regex of this. So if it does not match this, then we're good. If it matches it, then it's going to throw an error. And so there's simpler ones here we can show you. Just if you want to do, let me just show you a simple one here. Like if you wanted to scan for public and private. See if I have one here that's simple. Here's a Cisco one. Let's just edit that one. And the criteria here is, this is just a simple command line. So you don't need to necessarily use regex or anything else. You can just come in and say the actual string that is on the box when it's configured. So in the case of this Cisco box, if you see SNMP-server community public, it's going to look for that, and if it finds it, if it does not contain this, then you pass, otherwise it is going to fail. So then, obviously public on your box is probably not a good idea on a production network, and so you want to make sure that's not being put on boxes. So we'll scan for that. So that's the kind of the distinction between the change determination, just comparing config files, and then looking for specific things. And you can build these policies up to be as complex as you want, or have many fire off as you need to. And then the remediation actions, we have seeded some because we know what policies we're seeding. So if you search for compliance, if I can spell here, you'll see that we have some already seeded. And so you'll see, and so again, these are actions that you could execute manually if you wanted to go and resolve one of our compliance policies. And so it's just like a simple action. Here's one for AAA. Let's just look at that. We'll view the script here. So you see, all it's going to do is it's going to say, basically our policy was to say, make sure AAA is on the box. And if it's not, flag a failure. Well, if it's not, you could actually hook into our automation rules to say if that policy fails, go and execute this action automatically and put this configuration on the box. So this is another remediation type example. Very simple one, but that's the kind of thing you can do if you understand the automation framework. You can do that sort of thing and have it automatically bring your devices back into compliance. Okay, at a very high level, that is an overview of our change determination and compliance policies. I hope that was useful to you, and thank you for watching.